The Lion of Negeb, the story of Othniel, the first judge. The Shofet Chronicles, the Judges of the Bible, Book 1. Written by Israel Diamond. Narrated by David Martin. Chapter 1. The Shadow of Hebron. The sun over the Negeb was not a celestial body. It was a physical weight, a brass hammer beating against the anvil of the earth. Othniel stood upon the jagged limestone ridge that overlooked the Vale of Hebron. His eyes squinted toward the merciless glare that turned the horizon into a shimmering, liquid distortion. At 24 years of age, his skin had already taken on the texture of cured leather, darkened by the relentless desert kiln until he was the color of the very earth he claimed to own. Beneath him, the city of Hebron, once called Kirith Arba, the city of four giants, sat like a crown of pale stone atop the hill. It was a place of ancient echoes and fresh blood. To the north, the terebinth trees of Mamre stood like weary sentinels, their deep roots drinking from hidden veins of water that the surface heat could never touch. Othniel envied those trees. They were anchored. They were silent. They did not feel the gnawing restlessness that ate at his gut like a parasite. He shifted his weight, feeling the familiar bite of his bronze dagger's hilt against his thigh. The weapon was a gift from his father, Kenaz, but it felt light, too light for the shadows he felt lengthening over Israel. "The heat is a teacher, Othniel," a voice rasped behind him. It was a voice like grinding stones, weathered and dry. Othniel did not turn. He knew the gait of the man approaching. "It is a teacher that kills the weak students, uncle." Caleb ben Jephunneh stood up beside him. Even in his 80s, the patriarch of Judah moved with a predatory grace that shamed men 40 years his junior. His hair was a shock of white wool, and his arms were mapped with the scars of Egyptian lashes, desert vipers, and Canaanite blades. He was a relic of a harder world, a man who had walked the length of this land when it was still a terrifying mystery, long before the walls of Jericho had tumbled into the dust. "The weak are always the first to complain of the curriculum," Caleb said, his gaze fixed on the shimmering distance toward the south, where the wilderness of Zin began its descent into the salt wastes. "But look down there, boy. What do you see in the gates of the city?" Othniel looked. In the shade of the massive stone lintels of Hebron's gate, a group of young men sat. They were his contemporaries, sons of the men who had charged across the Jordan with Joshua. They were draped in fine linen, their hair oiled, laughing as they tossed carved sheep knuckle bones into the dust. A jug of wine sat between them, cooled by wet straw. "I see the sons of princes acting like the sons of merchants," Othniel spat. The bitterness in his mouth was more caustic than the alkaline dust. "They speak of the battles of our fathers as if they were campfire tales meant to entertain, not blueprints for survival. They think the land is won because the giants are dead." "The giants are never all dead," Caleb remarked quietly. "They just change their shape. They become sloth. They become greed. They become the desire for a soft bed and a full belly, while the border posts go unmanned." Othniel turned to face the old man. "Then why do we permit it? Joshua is old, uncle. He stays in Timnath-Serah, and the elders of the tribe speak of nothing but boundaries and grazing rights. Meanwhile, the Jebusites still hold the high fortress of Jerusalem, and the coastal plains are thick with the ironsmiths of the Philistines. We are becoming an island in a sea of enemies who are only waiting for us to fall asleep." Caleb's eyes, dark and piercing as a hawk's, locked onto Othniel's. "I see the fire in you, Ben Kenaz. It is the same fire that burned in me when I stood before the Anakim and told them this mountain belonged to my God. But fire without a hearth is just a wildfire. It destroys without building." He gestured toward the city again.